This particular bizarre crime is one that's close to me, because I actually lived in the area where this happened at the time. For a while it was all anyone talked about, and the crime was still unsolved years later when I left Japan. It's only recently that some of the questions behind this bizarre case have been answered, but these answers just made the case even stranger. This is the case of the discovery of a murdered Shimane University student in 2009. This case gets a little grisly in parts, so please be warned. Hiraoka Miyako was a 19-year-old first-year university student at the University of Shimane in 2009. Hiraoka, originally from Kagawa Prefecture, planned to earn her degree at the University of Shimane in Hamada City and then move overseas to help developing countries. She participated in the university's volunteer club and also worked part-time at a nearby shopping centre. She was, by all accounts, a model student and extremely dedicated to her future goals. However, after she left work on the night of October 26, 2009, she was never seen again. Hiraoka's parents filed a missing persons report with Shimane police 2 days later after they hadn't heard from their daughter. The police officially opened an investigation into her whereabouts on November 2nd, a full week after she was last seen. Hiraoka was a model student who never skipped class or work, and nobody was aware of any trouble she might have been in either. Her disappearance was completely out of character, and both friends and family feared for her safety. On November 6th, 4 days later, a woman's head was discovered near the top of Mount Garyu, a mountain lying on the Shimane and Hiroshima borders, and roughly 25 kilometers south of Hamada City. It was Hiraoka's. The police departments from both prefectures quickly announced that they would be working together to uncover who committed this horrific crime. The following day, Hiraoka's left thigh bone was discovered. It had been cut clean, with not a single drop of blood remaining on it. The day after that, her mutilated torso was found wrapped in a vinyl bag. Police suspected that this may have been done to hide the woman's identity. The day after that, they found her left foot, and then, on November 19th, her nails. The rest of her body was never found. Who could have committed such a horrific crime? And perhaps more importantly, why? Who would go to such lengths to hide the evidence? And how were they connected to this upstanding young woman? It was only the start of an investigation that would span close to a decade. Police determined that Hiraoka was killed sometime between October 26th and October 31st. She had likely been dumped on the mountain soon after her death. The cause of death was likely blunt force trauma to the head, or potentially strangulation. Police profiled the killer to be cruel, destructive, stubborn, and eccentric, likely a lone man in his 20s to 40s who was familiar with the area. The lone piece of evidence the police had to work with was the vinyl bag they found Hiraoka's torso in. It was an NTT bag used to distribute phone books, and these bags varied by both year and area, meaning they were able to narrow it down to an area of 5 cities near Mount Garyu in 1995, 14 years before the murder took place. The case almost immediately hit a standstill. A toll-free number was opened for information related to Hiraoka's death, but nobody had seen or heard anything. 3 years passed without any progress, and on October 26, 2012, the statute of limitations for the abandonment of her corpse expired. The police announced that they would be continuing their investigation, however, upgrading the charge to murder, which held no limitations. Yet still, the murder remained unsolved. Not only did it remain unsolved, the police had made zero progress since they first discovered her body all those years ago. Not a single person had seen anything. The killer left no evidence behind. It seemed that Hiraoka's case would join the multitude of unsolved murders in Japan, until a breakthrough finally came in 2016. By this point, 7 years after her death, more than 300,000 people had been involved in Hiraoka's case. Good to their promise, the police continued to investigate her murder, and in December of 2016, began looking into people who lived near Hamada City in 2009 with a history of sex crimes. Here, one suspect in particular stood out. A businessman for a solar panel company in the nearby city of Masada, by the name of Yano Yoshiharu. Yano grew up in Shimonoseki, a city to the south of Yamaguchi Prefecture. He was the captain of the track team in junior high, but he was also a shy and awkward kid. Handsome, yet unable to talk to girls. He reportedly threw himself into study and earned a black belt in judo around this time as well. Yano had been accepted into the National Defense Academy of Japan after graduation, but decided to go to a regular university in Kyushu instead. In contrast to his youth, Yano spent all of his time at university chasing women. He eventually dropped out and took part-time jobs around the place, even forming a band with his friends. Yano was the type of guy to throw himself wholeheartedly into whatever he did. Yet in 2004, Yano was arrested for sexually assaulting 3 women from across various parts of Japan. He attacked them randomly in the street, threatening them with a knife before attacking them. He spent 3.5 years in jail for these crimes, and started working for the solar panel company roughly 2 years after being released. As with everything else he put his mind to, Yano was a brilliant salesman who brought a lot of sales to the company, but other workers reported that he liked to complain a lot and often seemed stressed. Nobody at the company was aware of his past, however, and as it turned out, Yano was working in Hamada City, the same time Hiraoka was attacked. The missing piece of the puzzle seemed to fall into place. Yano was the police's first real suspect. Yet, there was one big problem. Yano was dead. Weirdly, he died only 2 days after Hiraoka's head was discovered on Mount Garyu. For 7 years, police had tracked down every lead, investigated every angle, and when it finally seemed like they were about to solve the case, their prime suspect was already dead. He died in a car accident with his mother only 1 day after the discovery of Hiraoka's head had been made public. Had he heard the news and gone on the run? Was the accident perhaps a suicide after Yano realized that the body he'd dumped had been found so quickly? Or was it an unfortunate coincidence? Police visited Yano's family home in Yamaguchi numerous times, seizing several of the suspect's personal items. Amongst these, they found a digital camera and USB stick. The contents had been deleted, but police were able to recover the files. They revealed 57 photos documenting Hiraoka's brutal murder, taken in Yano's rental house in Masada. They had him. Police had finally found their man, but he was already dead. Piecing together events, police guessed that Hiraoka was likely abducted on her way home from work that night by Yano, who was also working in the area. He then drove her back to his house in Masada, where he killed her and then dumped her body on Mount Garyu the following morning. After that, he went to work like nothing had happened. A week later, Hiraoka's head was discovered. 2 days later, Yano told friends he would be visiting his father's grave with his mother, yet the car crashed on the way home, and both died. Police had spent 7 years looking for a dead man, and unsurprisingly, never connected the two incidents. And as for the vinyl bag, it turned out that the same bag had been distributed in one more place, Shimonoseki, Yano's hometown. Police filed documents with the Matsue Public Prosecutor's Office despite Yano being long dead. They had more than enough to put Yano behind bars if he was still alive, but the prosecutor's office announced that they would be dropping the case due to the suspect's death. Almost a decade later, Hiraoka's bizarre and brutal murder had finally been solved, although her killer was never officially prosecuted. As it turned out, he had been dead all along, killed in a seemingly random car accident 2 days after his victim's discovery. Was it really an accident though? Colleagues reported that he was often stressed and complained constantly, and his sudden trip with his mother to visit his father's grave only 2 days after his victim had been discovered seems to be a little more than a coincidence. Yet ultimately, we may never know what was going on in his mind at the time, and it doesn't change the end result anyway. Both victim and killer were dead, and the truth only came to light close to a decade later thanks to the officers who never gave up. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you again next time.